Okay, welcome to the May 19, 2026 Fishkill Board of Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Excuse me. I'd like to call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up for tonight, we have the public hearing continuation. Let me just read this stuff here for you. At 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible, ZBA application ZB 26-001, Willow Lake Partners Group, LLC. The applicant is requesting the following area variances for the adaptive reuse of several existing structures and amenities, and for the construction of new improvements to include overnight motel accommodations for guests comprised of 32 semi-attached motel structures, 64 units each, approximately 600 square feet in size, and 16 fully detached motel structures, each approximately 950 square feet in size. Accessory buildings, facilities, including a restaurant with outdoor seating areas, a larger event space designed for group dining and special occasions, a welcome building, small building serving as a trailhead for on-site hiking, spa building, fitness building, accessory flex building, hiking trails, parking, and all other necessary site improvements. Variance number 1, 21.3-foot front yard setback variance from the front road center line for the proposed valet checkout building connection, where 75 feet is the minimum required front yard setback from the road center line in the R40 zoning district. Said variance will result in a 53.7-foot front yard setback. Variance 2, 22.2-foot front yard setback variance from the front lot line for the proposed valet checkout building connection, where 50 feet is the minimum required front yard setback from the front lot line in the R40 zoning district. Said variance will result in a 27.8 feet front yard setback. Variance 3, a front yard setback to allow parking to be located in the front yard for the proposed valet parking lots, where parking is not permitted in the front yard. Variance number 4, a 15-foot wall height variance where 6 feet is the maximum wall height permitted. Said variance will result in a 21-foot wall height at its highest point. The retaining wall height varies. And number 5, a construction on steep slopes variance to allow disturbance of approximately 0.11 acres of 55.87 acres of existing steep slopes, where new construction shall avoid areas of steep slopes greater than 20% over a horizontal distance of 100 feet or more. The lands affected by this application are identified as tax map parcel number 625500-432320, located at 416 Willow Lake Drive, consisting of 92.82 acres in the R40 and R4A zoning districts. Tax map parcel number 625500-472382, located at 138 Van Wyck Lake Road, consisting of 10.98 acres in the R40 and R4A zoning districts, and tax map parcel number 6255-00359445, located on Van Wyck Lake Road, consisting of 1.74 acres in the R40 zoning district. Willow Lake is the subject of a site development plan approval and a special use permit approval by the Town of Fishkill Planning Board, identified as Planning Board Application PB 25-001, and a freshwater wetlands / watercourse / water body permit identified as application number PB 25-006. The board shall confirm the receipt of the negative declaration, notice of determination of non-significance, Willow Lake Partners Group, LLC, site development plan, special use permit, freshwater wetlands, watercourse, water body permit that the planning board adopted on May 14, 2026. I'd like to, at this time, I guess, just bring the applicant up, and maybe you can just give us a quick rundown if anything has changed or where we stand with you guys, and we'll start our discussion.
Well, first of all, good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all again. So in the last meeting with the planning board, they did go through the negative declaration. I believe that was issued to the zoning board as well with copy. Nothing else on our plans has changed since our last meeting. So we'll open obviously to any questions that the board may have.
Okay. Ann, anybody? Ann, you have questions for tonight? Isabel? No questions?
Nothing.
Arnold?
None.
No. Okay, and myself, none. I think we beat this thing to death pretty much, so at this point, I guess, David, we go over the 5 factors?
Yeah, if you'd like to, and then we can go through that, and then we can talk about any conditions if that's the way that it heads. Yeah.
Okay, now, just, David, you can correct me if I'm wrong here.
I have a question. Is this still the public hearing?
Yeah, so there's two acceptable ways to do it. You know, sometimes if you know that there might be some further give and take with the applicant while you're discussing the 5 factors, it would be advisable to keep the public hearing open during that time period in case you want to ask the applicant for something, and then it can become part of the hearing. If you're not thinking that that's the way it's going to go at all, you could close the public hearing and then just discuss the factors and vote if you see fit.
Recommendation on that?
I would say, why don't you keep the hearing open while you discuss the 5 factors?
Okay.
Certainly don't vote on anything until the public hearing's closed. Right? And, certainly, while the hearing is open, if there's anybody else from the public that would like to be heard, before you start really discussing it, that's probably an advisable way to proceed as well.
So maybe we should let anybody speak now that would like to speak, and then...
I would do that
keep
because it
open.
might influence what, however you view the 5 factors and the balancing test.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're good. We're good,
with
Alex,
that
for
as
now,
well.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, as far as the public goes, would anybody from the public like to speak on the Willow Lake properties? Just please bear in mind two things real quick for me. Number one is I'm going to read you the rules. You can come up, it's fine. I'm going to read you the rules again. I know you've heard them before, but if you could state your name for the stenographer and maybe a spelling. And the second thing is just let me go through these rules real quick. Speakers are asked to come to the podium, identify themselves so their names may be entered into the record by the Zoning Board of Appeals Secretary, in this case our stenographer. Verbal interruptions, shouting, or other outbursts, as well as slanderous or obscene language or signs with the body or face are prohibited. Speakers are limited to 1 turn at the microphone and podium. Speakers are limited to 3 to 4 minutes at the microphone or podium. Speakers should provide only, this one's kind of important. Speakers should provide only new or different information commentary. Repetitive comments made previously or at previous meetings are prohibited. 6 comments are limited to the matters involved in the business before the board. In other words, a particular application is subject to the public hearing. And if a person continues to interrupt after the chair has asked him to stop, they will be asked to leave and escorted from the meeting room if necessary. Sir, you're up.
Stephen Schofield, 40 Van Wyck Lake Road. I have a question. Board of Health, has it been approved to run the sewage pipes all the way from Van Wyck Lake Road, Willow Lake, all the way to Village of Fishkill? And will the Village of Fishkill septic storage take it? That's it.
Okay. Anybody else like to speak?
Good evening, Marie Sprock, SPR OCK, 164 Van Wyck Lake Road. Since August 2025, the Willow Lake project has consumed nearly some part of every day of my life. Every time I leave my home, I pass what we know as the Stone House, and I imagine giant retaining walls, parking lots, cabins, a large commercial venture. I've researched tax codes, supporting case law, attended meetings, I speak at the public hearings. That's a tremendous amount of time and emotional energy invested by someone whose only connection to this project is because we live next door. Unfortunately, the neighboring residents appear to be the collateral damage of this project, despite the fact that we stand to lose the most. So the continued peaceful use and enjoyment of our property, which we're entitled to living in an established residential zone, now comes down to trees. So I've spoke about the trees before. I'm not going to reiterate that again, but we are asking that the board include a mandatory enhanced landscaping buffer as part of the conditions in any variance you may grant. Something that's enforceable, clearly defined, and again incorporated into the final resolution. We met with Alex last week, and we told him that we intend to retain an independent landscape architect as well to review the tentative plans that they presented at the last hearing. mainly to evaluate whether the selected species, spacing, and maturity levels are capable of the screening that they're representing. At this point, it's a foregone conclusion. This is happening. We're being asked to rely largely on assurances that this project will have little or no impact. So respectfully, enforceable conditions, not assurances, are what is going to protect our investment in our homes and our peace of mind. So I'll be happy when this thing's over because, like I said, I have a lot in this and I just want it to go away now. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Good evening. Rich Drake, D-R-A-K-E, 70 Van Wyck Lake Road. I don't have anything written down, so I'm just going to ad-lib as I go. I've spoken a number of times. I'm absolutely amazed that the town of Fishkill is allowing this in a residential area on a winding road that's going to back up traffic like you saw at May 5th. They had 5 police cars at Cafe Maya. So that's just an example of what's going to happen. So everybody that lives on that road is going to be blocked into their driveway if they allow this. I've mentioned before that I'm not sure that any one of you or the planning board would want this in your own neighborhood. And I think that should be something you really consider. Would you really want it in your own neighborhood? Never mind, just put it on us, because a lot of us are thinking about selling our homes because we don't want to be subjected to this. On top of that, I don't know how they're going to manage to get all the utilities. They're going to dig up Van Wyck Lake Road and inconvenience every single person there for months at a time. I don't think they care, and I'm sure that some other people don't care. Well, I do care, and my neighbors care as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay, so I guess at this point we're going to keep the public hearing open. We'll go through the 5 factors on the variances, and we'll discuss those, and before we vote, we will close the public hearing. We'll give everybody one more chance to speak if necessary. Before we go through these 5 factors, Alex, would you like to respond to the one question that we had?
Yes, thank you. So just a couple things for the board's consideration. With respect to the off-site improvements, specifically the sewer, that is subject to continued design and will have to be further permitted by the town before we proceed. So the planning board is obviously well aware of that at this point. Trees, with respect to Ms. Sprock's comments, I do want to just make clear that we have been on the record about our willingness to pay for the entirety of that, both here on the record and in the planning board. I do think it's difficult for the zoning board to put a condition on us without knowing exactly what that amount is or without some design in place, which is not currently before the board for consideration. We're happy to put some value to that. I'm happy to enter into a separate agreement with the Sprocks, but I think we've been very clear that we're willing to make that improvement and at our expense. Of course, subject to their satisfaction in the design. So I'm not sure if there's anything else necessary at the moment. And then with respect to Maya Cafe, I know it's been mentioned a few times here before the board and for the public record. I am part of an ownership group that does own Maya Cafe. It is a separate and distinct property. It has nothing to do with Willow Lake. And Cinco de Mayo is a long-standing tradition of Maya Cafe for decades. It regularly does have police cars there for safety, for people crossing from the lot across the street. It's no different than any years past. We were very lucky with great weather this year, and we welcomed over 1,200 residents from the town of Fishkill and neighboring towns.
Okay. Alex, one response to your talk about the trees. From what I understand, you've said on the record before, you've offered several options to, and I'm not going to say all the neighbors, but basically there's two neighbors that are affected.
Yes.
You've offered several options to them, and that's on the record, and that I think will be somehow put into just a condition to say, listen, say we give you this variance as long as you provide one of these options that you have, offered to the neighbors.
Subject to the wording of that, we would have no objection to that being on the record.
Okay. Yeah. It's all been on the record, so
Yeah.
I don't see it as being a problem.
Neither do I.
Tim.
David, did you have something?
No, I think it's a little nebulous from a legal standpoint. If we have people agreeing to trees and agreeing to give options and agreeing to put conditions, but we don't know, it's subject to language it's very difficult for me as a lawyer to draft a resolution when I don't know precisely what the condition is, other than, hey, we're going to do something. We don't know what it's going to be.
Would it be better for us to put a dollar amount to it and do it that
I
way?
have a question that might impact that. So I know Mrs. Sprock had mentioned having an architect, a landscape architect, look into this. I mean, what is the timetable on that? You know, are we, I guess I hesitate to place a vote on something, and we are very restricted because we're only looking at the variances that are listed here.
Sure.
So I'm just curious as to what is the time frame? What is the time frame before you would, I guess, Mrs. Sprock, maybe this is more a question for you, before you would feel that you have resolved, Miss?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of a question both for you and for the Sprocks, is what do you think the timetable would be before everyone would feel like you have the information that you need to make an agreement that would be satisfactory to everyone?
Realistically, I think that's probably a couple of months, you know, just between, look, I guess it's sort of a catch-22 for me, because
Right.
I want them to be fully satisfied with exactly what they're going to get. And then that's obviously subject to availability of that species and timing of
Yeah.
season and planting. And so I want to provide them maximum flexibility, but also not restrict us in an indefinite timetable for an approval that we need for our project.
Right.
So
So it's kind of like the apple before the cart.
exactly.
kind of
So,
thing.
you know, I think if we could get something in the record or with our approvals, hopefully if that's coming, that just talks about either an amount or something that we could further agree to legally that would protect them, and they know that we're going to continue our commitment. I'm just not sure exactly what that may look like from the town. I mean, we've said over and over again, we'll do it. Obviously, we're on the record about it. Whatever the town feels comfortable with respect to language.
And I appreciate the idea of a dollar figure, but it's meaningless to me without knowing what it is and what it would cost. I mean, I'm not a landscape architect. I don't think anybody
Yeah.
on the board is. So if you said it's,
So we've
we put in
proposed-
$2,000 with the landscaping or
Yeah.
200,000, obviously one is a lot more than the other, but what is it?
So we've proposed
You know?
two separate proposals, one that's a little bit tighter to their properties, a little bit more on their lot, and one that's a little bit more on ours. One is, again, more screening up against their property, and one moves a little bit down the hillside to provide more screening on the hill, just not right up against their home. So they can choose from either one, and we have provided species of plants in that proposal. It's all well documented and presented to both the planning board and to zoning. So either one of those would be option A or B, and then whatever those cost, they cost. We've proposed it, so.
So the two, I don't have them in front of me. I'm sure they're somewhere in this stack or
Yeah.
in the ether somewhere. But are there, what are the names of those documents and dates, dates last revised for those two options?
Okay, yeah, that's good.
So just briefly to remind the board, when the landscape architect was here before you, we did go over these two options. She walked through all of the different species types that were recommended. Option one, again, kept the plantings a little bit tighter to the residents, and option two moved them a little bit deeper into the property, more on our location, spread out a little bit deeper down the hillside.
What are the dates on those respective plans?
This is from April 6, I believe. 1 second from that submission. This is the submission uploaded on April 6th, 2026 at 1:48 p.m.
So it's uploaded on that date. Is there a date on the plan, like a date last revised? Is it April 6th as well?
Yeah, I think that there was like a side view where you could see the house, the trees, the hill.
Yes.
Yeah, now I'm starting to remember, there was an option one and option
Yeah.
two, and it did have a lot of drawings up there.
Yeah, model dated.
Good evening. For the record, this is Luke Butler with Dynamic Engineering. The plans are dated March 31st, 2026.
And I think there was a stamped as received by the zoning board on the, what day was that? I saw that right there. Either way, okay.
I think it said the 6th.
There's also a sightline exhibit that was submitted on the same day.
And
Just set the
Yeah, so this is the sightline exhibit that was submitted as well for the residents.
presenting both options, both within their property lines and then right outside of it as well for year 0, year 5, and year 10, demonstrating the growth of the landscape over time.
Yeah, I remember that now.
And the overall date of, I'm sorry, the date of the overall plan, the last revised that this board was presented with any other revisions, in addition to these landscape plans, what's the date of those plans?
All the plans are March 31st, 2026, and they were submitted for the April 6th, 2026 hearing.
Thank you.
The plans that zoning board member Lagoya are referring to are the latest plans, the ones that we talked about at the last meeting. And that you see.
So David, do you think we have enough for you to write that up the way it needs to be written?
Yeah, I think I can handle, again, assuming we're getting cart before the horse here, but I see where
Yeah.
it's going, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, but if we're looking to impose enforceable conditions on a grant, hypothetically, right? You know, that would typically be compliance with all the latest plans submitted, and that's why I was asking that date, the 3/31, but it would also be apropos to this conversation, it's, you know, with the, you know, that the applicant shall implement either option number 1 or option number 2 on the plans dated last revised March 31, 2026, and uploaded and submitted to the board on April 6, 26, along with the sightline exhibits for each option, that they must implement, shall implement one or the other.
Okay, and that would be as per the neighbor's discretion, option 1 or option 2?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to, you know.
How to
like
word that?
Yeah, I'd be reluctant to say per the neighbor's discretion, only because then if the neighbors don't make a decision, then they can never, you know, comply. And so it's a little, again, it's a little problematic from that standpoint, doing it this way, but I think if, you know, we can word it that way, that it's got to be one or the other, and then they've
Okay.
got to work it out. You know, or, I mean, is this a discussion, this landscape plan, is it a discussion presently before the planning board on the site plan application as well? Like this same set of landscape plan, it's before them?
They have received the same set of plans.
Okay. So, you know, the other way to handle it, or an additional way to handle it, one of the conditions I would be recommending in any event would be obviously subject to and conditioned upon, you know, planning board approval.
Site plan approval.
Site plan approval,
Okay.
and any conditions that board imposes, you know, including landscaping plans.
Okay, yeah, I like
That
that.
would probably be cleaner, and it also, if I may, just gives us a couple more weeks before our next hearing with the planning board to maybe shore that up with our neighbors.
Can
Yeah.
I have a follow-up?
Yeah, she can, right?
Of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
yes,
So it's one of the benefits of keeping this hearing open.
yes.
The only concerns that I have is this sort of came after the initial plan submission, so I don't know if it's where it is before the planning board, and that's more of a legal question, because this was not part of the original submission way back when. So I don't know how you guys work in conjunction to make sure that, what I don't want to have happen is we get lost in the shuffle. We're willing to work with Alex and the team. We're not going to never come to an agreement, because these trees, like I said, are extremely important. So, which is why we were willing to spend the money to have an independent person come in just to verify what they presented isn't going to be eaten by the deer, die in 2 years, grow 1 inch a year, et cetera, et cetera. So we just wanted an independent not some with such a vested interest to say, yes, this is going to be great. So when you look to the planning board, maybe Jennifer, you could say how these extra submissions get before the record there. That's not my expertise. Thank you.
As Alex has said, these plans have been submitted to the zoning board and the planning board. I think that if you...
I can vouch for that, Jennifer.
yes.
Everything that comes into
Okay.
the ZBA or vice versa,
Right.
I send to the planning board, including links to the meetings and the agendas and the packets.
Right. Whatever you write up that refers to the planning board, you can refer to these plans by their dates, by their submission dates, and I think that will be very clear to the planning board.
Yeah, so what I'm envisioning is possibly, you know, in the standard language of subject to and conditioned upon review and approval by the planning board, including any conditions that board places, we could add additional language to the effect of, I'd work on it, but, you know, including specifically the implementation, that board's implementation of, you know, the one of the two options submitted in terms of landscaping dated, you know, X date.
And the current plans and specs.
Right.
Right.
We would be fine with that.
Yeah, okay. Marie, good?
We're fine with whatever happens as long as we don't get lost in the shuffle, which is why I keep getting put on the record, just to make sure you don't forget about us.
Okay. I think we got this covered here. Fingers crossed.
I hope so.
Alice, anything else?
I don't have anything else to add unless the board has any questions of us.
Anybody have any last questions? Everybody comfortable discussing the 5 factors? Okay. David, I was just going to ask you real quick, as far as these 5 factors go, variants 1 and 2 are pretty much the same, with the exception of from the center line, the variances from the center line or from the front lot line. Can we discuss those 2 together as one? Or do we need to go through the 5 factors on each one?
Sure, I mean, there's no specific absolute right way and wrong way.
Okay.
As long as you're considering the 5 factors and the balancing test in regard to all of them, you don't have to go through number 1 and then go through all 5 factors in the balancing test and take a vote. You don't have to go through number 2 and go through the 5 factors.
We can do all of them together.
Unless in your discussion, you have some disagreement or it comes up with it, but as long as the record's reflecting that you're considering all 5 factors with regard to all 5.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be so, you know, formulaic in that regard. So, yes, the short answer is if you'd like to just go to 1 and 2 and lump them together and say, you know, go through the 5 factors on each, you could do that. You know,
Okay.
if you want to, you can do it any way you see fit.
How'd you like to walk us through that? I mean, I'll do it if you want. I mean, either way is fine.
So, I mean, I can help you
Okay.
get through it, right?
Maybe you
So-
could walk us through it
So
this
the board is aware, you know, globally, like you've got 5 variance requests before you. They're all on the agenda. You'll have them before you. You know, you have to apply a balancing test weighing the benefit that's sought by the applicant from the variances. You know, what's the benefit that they're seeking against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the community by those variances, not by the project as a whole, but by the variances, right? And then you consider the 5 factors. And the 5 factors are, I think you have them on the sheet before you, but the first is whether there's an undesirable change produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variance. So maybe you want to do is go down each one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll start with each factor and then go through each of the 5. And if anybody thinks the answer is, you know, yes, that will, number 3, for example, or number 5, for example, but not numbers 1 and 2, that will reveal itself, and then we can talk in more depth about that. But
Okay.
why don't we starting with that, the first factor, the undesirable change, does anybody, in regard to any of the 5 variances sought, does anybody feel that there, or have any comment or like to discuss whether there is or is not an undesirable change that might be produced
Ian, you want
or
to start?
detriment to the nearby properties?
Well, I guess it is, it's relative to who you're talking to, right? For me, I want to say I do appreciate how much communication you're having with your neighbors. I think that the setback, given the landscaping that you're providing, while it may be undesirable to some, I don't feel that I would say, I don't say that that would be an undesirable, is my comment.
Isabel?
I agree with what
You
Ed
agree with
said.
what it says? Doug?
Agreed. You've jumped through all the hoops, you've worked with your neighbors, and I agree. So, yeah,
Arnold?
exactly.
I don't see any impediment.
Okay. And I don't either. I mean, we beat this to death pretty much, and I think we're in good shape on that one, so I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, and that's, you guys all feel that way about all 5 variances?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The next factor is whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other feasible method other than by the granting of an area variance.
Ann?
Well, again, and I said this in other meetings, I feel very appreciative at the amount of green space that you're retaining. I think that the detriment to move this parking lot in a different area would cause more harm to the environment. That being said, I also understand the neighbors' concerns, and again, I think it very seriously falls back on the agreement that you can come to with the neighbors to make sure that they are assured that they're not going to be staring down a parking lot.
Isabel?
No, I agree with her.
You agree with her? Okay.
More
Doug?
than one neighbor.
I understand that.
Yeah, I pretty much the same thing. I don't want to reiterate everything, but, the parking is what you need. That's what you need to function as your business, and I think that's what's, it's not going to, there's no other feasible way to achieve that I could see on that property.
Arnold?
Personally, I mean, I've walked the property, I had the ability to do an on-site visit, and I think that where the parking is probably the most prudent and least impactful.
Agree.
Least impactful in the environment, in the community.
Yep. Okay. I'm in agreement with everything that they've said so far. I mean, you guys have worked really hard on working with us, working with the neighbors. So as far as number 2 goes, on the 5 variances, I do not have a problem.
Okay, and that, you all feel the way you did about all 5 variances?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The next factor is whether the area variances are substantial.
Ann?
The only one that I feel is somewhat substantial is the wall height. However, going out on the site visit, I feel like that is a very short portion of the wall. So I don't think that is enough of an impact with the overall variance to say that, yes, that is a detriment.
Isabel?
I don't believe it's detriment either.
No. Doug?
Yeah, number 4, substantial but necessary. I don't see a problem with it after the site visit. It's needed.
Arnold?
I agree, not detrimental.
I mean, my personal opinion, yes, some of this is substantial. The number 4, the wall is, but there's not a big portion, so I'm not really that concerned about it. The steep slopes variance, that's very minimal, so I don't really have a problem with that either. So I think I'm good with this one as well.
Okay, and again, that, you all feel that way on all 5 variances, subject to, obviously, your comments regarding the wall height, yes?
Yes.
Okay. The next factor is whether the variances sought would produce an adverse effect or impact on the environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
Ann?
So,
Have to start with somebody.
I know. I will say this, and to, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Your name?
Drake.
Greg?
Drake.
Drake. And to some of the neighbors talking about the water and the impact of the runoff. I am not an engineer, so I am going on what your engineers are saying, that they are actually going to be improving the runoff that now currently goes down Van Wyck Lake Road. And again, I think some of that also will fall back on the agreement that you're able to make about the landscaping and making sure that anything, any runoff that's still, you know, maybe isn't successfully caught in those tanks is going to be caught by trees and shrubs and the landscaping. So
Isabel?
I'm depending on the engineer.
I'm depending on the engineer too.
That's what they get paid to do, right?
What?
That's what they get paid to do.
Right,
Okay.
that's right.
Doug?
Correct, yeah, that's what they get paid to do, and I agree fully. Well, not completely thrilled. If I was living there, I empathize. I truly do empathize.
Arnold?
Reading through the plans that were initially sent to us, I think the vegetation addressed many of the issues. I think the development in itself with stormwater runoff, as well as some of the other issues like being the sewage and water up, is only going to just be a positive for the community. It'll eliminate some perceived issues further down the road. So-
Thank you. Myself personally, as of the 5 variances here, the one that always bugged me a bit was the stormwater. Your engineers went through that with me. I mean, I don't know how many times I've asked a question. You were pretty thorough about it. I was in construction for a lot of years, so I understood what they were saying. To me, it looks like it will work, so I really don't have a problem with that, or as far as this goes, any of the other 5 variances.
Okay, again.
May I just interject that the planning board, which was the lead agency under seeker for review of the entire project, in its negative declaration, which is a declaration that there is not a significant adverse impact, made specific findings as to flooding and as to storm drainage, that specifically that conditions would actually be improved by the improvements made by the applicant.
Thank you. Yeah, we do understand that. We did have to ask some questions because the variance is for front yard parking, and the water's going to come off of the parking lots. So that's why it sounds like, yes, that's planning board, but it does come back here as well.
I didn't mean in any way to say that you weren't completely justified in asking questions. I just wasn't aware that our interviewer had an opportunity to read the negative declaration.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and obviously that applies to all 5 variances, yes?
Yes.
Okay, and then the last is whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, and that's, it's relevant, but it's not determinative.
Ann, any comments on that?
It's always, but
Yeah, it is. Isabel?
No.
Doug?
Always self-created by.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, it is somewhat self-created, but you have, conditions you have to live with. So I don't have a problem with that. And that applies to all 5 variances. Or all 5, yeah.
Okay, so,
Somebody has a question.
Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
so the public hearing is still open. If you
Yep.
want to hear from anybody or for the applicant any further, anybody from the public any further, if any of you have any
Any questions
questions,
on the board?
now would be the time.
Yep.
And, then otherwise you could close the public hearing and you could take a vote and we can discuss, the conditions.
Oh, sure, good, thank you.
I believe there's a couple of questions here.
Yep. Just in case. Yep, there's a couple there.
I am scared. When I come out of my driveway, I have to come halfway out the road to see if there's anybody coming around the corner. If they want to take part of my yard and make it so I can see, that'd be fine, But right now, it's a blind corner, and my neighbors up the road is a blind corner. I'm afraid we're going to get hit. Just want this on the record that if it happened in the future, I get hit from somebody coming up that road. Just want you to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No?
Michelle Pacone, 30 Cathy Court, Fishkill. Our house, the back of our house butts up to the property. We've already spoken about that. We're in a little bit of a different situation. So like he had said, well, I wouldn't want it in my backyard, I think he said. and that's the concern. You know, I'm sure there won't be any water runoff, but there's been runoff recently where the Van Wyck Lake Road is just flooded with water, but hopefully there won't be a problem with that. If we do have a problem, who do we reach out to? You know, do we reach out to the town supervisor if we have a problem with runoff?
I think
building
yeah, either the
inspector?
building inspector or the town highway
Okay,
department.
okay. And I guess our house is in a different situation because property that we have maintained a little cut through, we don't have a plan like this because we're in a different situation, but we also, you know, we're concerned about lights and all that stuff. And I know we're going to work with them also, but I just want that on the record that, you know, we have concerns too. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak, make any last comments? No? How about anybody on the board? Okay, I think, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second by Isabel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so now I guess we can take a vote on this.
Yeah, so it sounds, you know, from the discussion, obviously, it sounds like the board's heading towards a vote for an approval with conditions. I would suggest procedurally, somebody could make a motion to approve the 5 variances. You could do it all in one motion, approve the 5 variances on the following conditions. So I just jotted down some conditions, which is compliance with the latest plan submitted to this board dated March 31st, 2026. Subject to, and conditioned upon planning board approval and any conditions that board imposes, to include the imposition of the landscape plans, options 1 or option 2, dated March 31, 2026, including the sightline exhibits, payment of any and all due fees, and compliance with all their laws, rules, and regulations. Those are the ones that I've jotted down. Does anybody have anything else that they'd like to talk about or look at in terms of conditions?
Conditions that would be added.
The landscaping is for both neighbors, correct?
Yes, it's on the plans.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought, because I just got a little bit.
So I just want to address that for the board quickly. And there should be just one condition. I'm sure that they will obviously accept and approve and want the plantings, but to the extent that the neighbor at some point does not want them or changes their mind in any which way, that's not a condition of us moving forward on our project. We do have one neighbor that we have absolutely no issue with planting. The other is subject to something that you should be discussing with the town attorney, specifically that 50-foot buffer, which has been maintained, which is part of the subdivision and should not be maintained. And so to put any condition or requirement that we fill a space that we technically shouldn't be touching, I think is challenging.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that creates a real problem, right? Because it is the options 1 and option 2, are they showing landscaping in that buffer?
No, they're not.
No,
Okay.
option, no. We
Okay,
provided only sight lines and only improvements on our lot. We didn't propose any improvements where we were not allowed to propose improvements. Sightlines 1 and 2, what you're looking at here is for the Sprock residence, and there's no issue of same on that lot.
Maybe I misunderstood then, because I thought that, and ma'am in the pink, I can't remember what her name is.
Ms. Picone.
Picone, yeah. It was my understanding that there was going to be some plantings there to help kind of block, but what you're saying is you really are in a catch-22 because you can't plant there.
I'm in a catch-22 with respect to what we will agree to on the record.
Got it.
It's a matter of us being good neighbors. I think maybe that's the position that we all accept.
You're going to be neighbors for a long time.
Yeah.
So is there, are you envisioning, the condition that I'm trying to wordsmith here, right? That, kind of punting it to the planning board, but including that board's imposition of either option number 1 or option number 2. Is there something is there a specific issue with that? Or that you, like, what's the escape hatch of the neighbors that are impacted, say, hey, we don't want either option 1 or option number 2,
Well, they don't have
You
an
know,
option
it's-
1 or 2, though.
What's that?
They don't really have, for that area, they don't have an option 1 or 2. The option 1 or 2
I think he's now talking about the Sprock
Yeah,
residents.
I know there's 2 different
here.
issues, I'm going to address them both.
Yeah, I think it, again, you know, you can wordsmith it, but I think it's subject to the planning board's approval of the landscape condition and plan as shown in the submitted drawings, either option 1 or 2. I would leave any.
Not shall implement option 1 or 2, we're basically,
It's an all-inclusive. This landscape plan is part of the proposed project, so it needs to be adopted as part of the final
adopting a landscape plan.
approval,
Right.
and I think we leave it there. And then whether or not the neighbor chooses 1 or 2 or none is their off-the-record determination. We're bound to complete the landscape plan as shown.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the 5 variances, subject to compliance with the landscape plan submitted on March
31st.
March 31st, I put 21st, 31st of 2026. Any conditions that the planning board so impose, and payment of all fees, and abidance by rules and regulations as per the plans.
David, sound good?
Yeah, I think it embodies the spirit, and I'll draft, but it embodies the spirit of.
I'll second.
Seconded by Doug. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you all very much.
And if you could just do one more, directing
Yes.
the attorney to prepare a resolution to that effect and authorizing the chairman to sign if he finds it in conformity with the proceedings.
Somebody make that motion.
I'll make the
You make the
motion.
motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passed. Alex, I just want to thank you and your group for working so hard with us, with the neighbors. Actually was a pleasure working with you guys. I mean, some applicants, give you a real hard time. They come in here and they don't want to work with you at all, and I appreciate what you've done.
We appreciate your time very much, and thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, I'm going to ask the board at this time if somebody would make a motion for us to go into attorney-client session for some legal advice.
Motion to go into attorney-client privilege. for
Have a
legal
second?
advice.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, one other thing, I'd like Joel and Debbie to stay for the session, if that's okay? Thank you.
So where are we going to do it? We do it here, or is there?
We usually have the public leave.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Anybody from the public, we're going to ask you to please step out to the lobby while we go into executive session.
Got it.
Debbie, there she is. Okay. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to come out of attorney-client session, please.
Motion to come out of attorney-client.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay, next on our agenda is a request for a zoning determination, Duchess Manor restoration and site redesign. The applicant is seeking a determination from the Zoning Board of Appeals pursuant to Town Code Section 150-11. This allows a 50-foot offset of the restricted business zoning district line onto the adjoining R2A zoning district. The lands affected by this determination prior to the subdivision abandonment process filed by the applicant with the Dutchess County Clerk's Office on April 17, 2026 are identified as tax map parcel 5953-00-620222, located at 263 Route 9D, consisting of 6.632 acres in the RB zoning district, and tax map parcel number 5953-00603192, located at 14 Chorus Lane consisting of 5.632 acres in the R2A zoning district. A new tax map parcel number is to be assigned by the Dutchess County Clerk's Office for both parcels as a result of the subdivision abandonment filed by the applicant. Okay. At this time, I'd like to have the applicant come up and speak.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Helen Mauch. I'm a partner in the law firm of Mincer Mauch, and I represent HHFT in connection with its application that is pending before the Planning Board for a site plan and special use permit for the Dutchess Manor Restoration and Site Improvement Project. We are here tonight to request a determination under Section 150-11 of the Fishkill Zoning Code, which allows a 50-foot offset from a less restricted zoning district, in this case, the RB district, into a more restricted one. When a district boundary divides a lot in common ownership, and more than 50% of the lot lies in the less restrictive district. In all cases where those two factors are met, the ZBA may determine that the regulations for the less restricted district may be extended by 50 feet into the more restricted district. That is the extent of what we're asking for from this board. The concerns over the proposed number of parking spaces is not something that this board must evaluate. That question will be decided by the Planning Board, and the Planning Board will be making that decision in conjunction with HHFT's site plan and special use permit application. To provide some relevant context, the initial concept for this project was a unified project on the adjoining lots and a rezoning so that the two lots would share the same zoning designation. The development initially utilized much more of the land in the residentially zoned portion, but the project was scaled back to address comments from the Planning Board and the neighbors, and the rezoning didn't make sense. And the 50-foot offset under 150-11 sufficed to provide a unified project on the new consolidated lot. The lot consolidation is complete. Everything the chair read in the introduction is correct, except that there is a single tax lot assigned to the consolidated lot. That lot number is 600-192. And we're going to take you through the site details and the project evolution. We are happy to answer any questions that the board members have, but we do respectfully submit that there is no basis to deny a favorable determination under 150-11. The zoning code is plainly drafted, and it is not appropriate to graft exceptions onto this plainly worded zoning code provision. Again, HHFT meets the two requirements. A district boundary divides a lot in common ownership, and more than 50% of the lot lies in the less restricted district. So I'm going to pass it off to Amy Casala. I should have introduced her earlier. She is the executive director of HHFT, and with me tonight is Peter Mullen, who's the president of HHFT. Thank you.
Good evening. So this will be very brief, but we just wanted to walk you through some of the images that go with what Helen just described. So the site plan in October 2024 looked at these two lots, holistically and really sprawled and used a lot of the area in the residential parcel, which is the one to the left when you're looking at this. As this has evolved, we've had a lot of discussion with the neighbors about the views from the three properties right here, and would they see that? We've increased the buffer and then increased it again. And so as we found ourselves increasingly towards the restricted business parcel, it seemed that all of this fits within this 50-foot line for the overflow parking lot here. So the purpose of this facility within our use would be as a visitor center for a new linear park that's being built in multiple stages. So we have staff parking here, event parking, classrooms that might be parking. So this is sort of how we're, and then trail users, and particularly in the future, but also in the near term, using a shuttle to get down. So we've looked at all of that use, and this is sort of what we've decided, you know, it's actually, we started at 181 and now we're at 124 parking spaces, so. So you see that's the 50-foot line, and we, from the restricted business parcel into the residential parcel. And that's it.
Did you have anything else?
No.
No, that's it. Okay, questions from the board? Ian, you have any questions at this time?
No.
Isabel, do you have any questions at this time? No? Doug, any questions at this time? Arnold?
None.
Okay, at that point, I see a lot of people out here showing up and have some concerns, which concerns me. Tonight is not a public hearing. I'm sorry that nobody can speak tonight, but I would like to entertain a motion to schedule a public hearing on this issue. Can I get that motion?
Second.
I make that motion.
No, I second.
And seconds? Any discussion? All in favor?
You want to include the date?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
June 16th.
Yes, it would be for Tuesday, June 16th, 2026.
So the motion is to schedule a public hearing for
For
Tuesday, June 16th.
6/16/26, that's correct.
Okay, and there's
We had a second
to
by
that
Doug.
motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No, any opposed? Motion is carried. Public hearing is set for 6/16/26, and I'm sure we'll see all you guys that are out there on the 16th. Anything else?
I'll just say on record that I will get you the public hearing packet next week. Okay?
Thanks. May I ask a clarifying question of council or the board? So we looked at this provision 150-11 very carefully, and I'm just curious for my own education. What zoning code provision authorizes a public hearing for a determination under 150-11?
Well, I don't think it's something that's authorized, but it's authorized by New York State Town Law 267A7. I think it's required by Town Law 267A7, and there's some case law that supports that it's absolutely required, and that's the case of Kirkland versus ZBA of City of Long Beach, among others. So I think it's there's certainly nothing that prohibits the board from scheduling a public hearing as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then it was in our packet, but I presume you know that there has been a public hearing in connection with the application before the planning board.
That's correct, yes.
You're aware?
But the public hearing did not address 150-11.
That's correct. That's correct. Okay.
Okay. Anybody have anything else?
No.
New business, old business? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See you guys next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.